I only opened this computer up about 3 days before I come here.
It's sad. Yeah.
We're not using it appropriately.
I mean, they gave us very minimal
Training. Sure.
It's like if you wanted to.
Sometimes I'll stroll on like 5 minutes early. Don't worry, I'm on time. I'll try to get here 5 to at least. I was running a little late tonight.
All right.
Does everybody typically
Yeah.
want us here at a certain time? As long as I'm here by 7.
Get here about 8 minutes to, maybe.
That's usually what I plan for, but tonight was a little shady.
So if I get stopped by a train, it's 5 minutes to.
I come that way, luckily, so that won't happen to me.
Asked me and my wife at the parade. We were sitting under the tree at Banbury Fair.
You, okay. You were all by yourselves over there. You should have said something. Yeah, you did.
No, nothing.
It was my first time over there. I always sit by, Stearns and Bartlett Road. And it's so easy to come over there. I am friends with Bruce and Jan.
Christy, are we ready? Christy, are we ready? Mike's on.
Yes, thank you.
7:02, I'll call to order the meeting of the Plan and Zoning Commission, the Village of Bartlett, counties of Cook, DuPage, and Kane. Please call the roll.
Bob Picaro,
Here.
Steve Callahan, Charlie DeVoe,
Here.
Mark Hopkins,
Here.
Julie Kapatakakis,
Here.
George Koziel,
Here.
Tom Miasso, Shel Sarwaz, Mike Weirden.
Here. You have before you the minutes from the June 2nd Planning and Zoning Commission. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by George, seconded by Charlie. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Charlie DeVoe,
Yes.
Mark Hopkins,
Yes.
Julie Kapatakakis,
Yes.
George Koziel,
Yes.
Bob Picaro,
Yes.
Mike Weirden.
Yes. First item on the agenda is case number 22-10, 1277 Keim Trail. Are the petitioners present? Please come up to the microphone. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the evidence you're about to give is only the whole truth? Do we have the evidence of the mailings, the newspaper, and the picture of the sign?
We have the evidence of the newspaper and the sign. The evidence of the mailing is not present, but is, I would vouch that I had seen the mailing and will be provided at a later date.
Okay, so we can have it before it goes to the board meeting?
Yes.
Please note that John Miazzo arrived, 7:04. Okay, go ahead and state your name and then present the case.
I'm Kristen Wolf, one of the landowners.
And I'm Tom Klass, my son is the other one. What we're looking for in a variance is that the areas that are attached to the homes to the left and right, the setback is 7, 8 feet. And I'm just talking about terms, 7, 8 feet. They require 30 feet. So we're burdened with making up a 30-foot easement. I would think that if they're 7, we're 7. That would create the easement required. If the other side's 8, we're 8, that's the easement's required. To get the area that they're looking for, we have to push the house 15 plus feet back.
pushed back significantly further into the retention area.
So was there probably a variance in the beginning when the house was built?
Oh, it's not built.
This is empty land.
This is a two-big.
Okay.
So Durwood Forest, the subdivision that this lot is located in, was a planned unit development. So it has ER3 PUD zoning. If it had straight ER3 zoning, the minimum setback would be 15 feet for each lot. The original developer wanted to have some flexibility, and so the minimum setback is now 7.5 feet, but there needs to be 30 feet between houses. So it was, if one lot was shifted over to that 7.5 feet, the other lots in line would have to be shifted over to keep that 30-foot of distance.
Okay.
Basically, what she said is exactly what we're talking about. That the easement is not wide enough for them to build their house and to try to keep in line with the other homes. And the crossing curb being set the way that. So we don't feel that Joe and Kristen should bear the cost or the look of the house by having to put this house all the way back, including any other, because there's retention area. I don't know what else would have to be done engineering-wise. So therefore, we thought that ask for a variance in our side yards because they're so close to the lot line, and we would have to, let's say it's 7 feet on one side, we'd have to pick up the other 23 feet to keep a 30-foot distance.
Because the two neighbors on both sides built so close to our lot line.
Were you aware of these restrictions when you bought the property?
No.
How did you come to understand them then?
I believe when my son talked to the village regarding permits,
Yeah, permit process for sure. We already had our architectural drawings and engineering and everything done.
the value of the home would be in equal to or excess of what is around it. So it's not like being overbuilt, it's definitely not being underbuilt.
Have you had any contacts with people about this, calling in?
We have had, some of the neighbors had stopped in to ask about the variation, and I had spoken against it.
Okay.
Yes, the alternative is for the neighbors to stare at an empty lot for, I mean, how long has it sat empty? Up until this point.
Forever it's been empty.
We've done it so far.
She out of order.
Okay, you'll have a chance to speak if you want to later.
Where's the retention area you're talking about?
The back portion of, glasses about, it's the back portion to see the dotted line.
That all backs up to other lots. There's no set retention area.
There's retention and easements, they're all over there.
All those yards belong to somebody. There's no dedicated retention area there.
There is a 35-foot utility drainage
Yeah, there's a utility, yeah.
detention easement along the back.
It floods there.
And there's also a house right behind it as well, so pushing it back, it's gonna push it right into that house as well.
Yeah, there's a house behind you, and there's fully landscaped that lot, and it goes up to your lot line. I know. I did the landscaping.
I have a question for staff. Is that okay? You know, this is a covenant and restriction or a homeowners association document of some sort? Or was it running with the PUD? What is it?
This is with the PUD. If it was simply with the covenants, it would not come before this board.
The covenant was never filed with the village.
The village does not enforce private covenants for a homeowners association. The village does enforce the setbacks and the separation requirements that are part of the PUD.
So how could those not be disclosed at closing?
I don't know.
Is this the only property that had to come in for a variation like this?
In this subdivision, yes.
There's only 2 lots left in the subdivision, the one you're buying, and there's one on Winter's Cup. That's all there is.
There's the one behind the fire department.
Backs up to the fire department, correct?
And it's keeping with the size of the home too. Trying to keep the size of the home equal to.
Right, you're gonna be about 3,000 square feet. The home will be about 3,000 square feet.
Can staff tell us how far, what the distance would be from the wall of the proposed garage to the property line and then to the building next door?
It's on the exhibit. Page 16.
From our garage to the lot line, is that what you're saying?
Yes, so I have that here. It's 17 1/3 feet from the garage to the lot line, and then 27 1/3 feet to the neighboring home.
So on that side, you're seeking a 2.65-foot variance.
To keep the 30 feet. I know you guys all want to keep the 30 feet. It's fine, it won't fit. The lot's very small. And there's a requirement to have certain square footage.
Which is,
I believe it's 2,800 square feet.
Had you known this going in, though, you could have had your architect design a narrower home.
I wasn't involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, possibly, yeah. Yeah, or we're gonna push back further towards where we're worried about water.
I think if it's a matter of a couple of feet, you won't notice.
Did we get a clear answer on whether or not the 2 neighbors are objecting or neutral or for this?
We personally spoke with the neighbors on the left-hand side if you're looking at the house.
The residents I spoke to at the counter were not directly abutting the north or the east or west of this site. They just said they lived in the neighborhood.
And full disclosure, I mean, I'm wondering if some of the neighbors are not wanting a house built there, period, just construction, noise, everything like that. It's,
No.
Not really about the footage between the houses.
So we don't know.
Can we ask if the neighbors are here tonight?
No, they're not. I know when that house was built. The guy to the one side built it up to the lot line because he bought that lot. That lot was supposed to stay vacant.
What we're saying, if the PUD requires 30 feet
Yes.
between houses.
The planned unit development changed the setbacks. So instead of being both lots had to have a minimum of 15, one lot could have a minimum of 7.5 feet, provided there were still 30 feet between structures.
Okay. Thank you.
So the 7.5 feet puts Barron's down on the next level. Right. Because they have to be 30 feet away, correct?
Correct.
So no one can build 7.5, and no one can build 7.5 next door.
Correct.
Since the house to our left did not allow 7.5 feet to the line, we are now expected to make up for that, is what we're saying, correct?
Is that house, the house to the,
If you're looking at the house on the left.
what was the setback? Do you have those plats? What's the address?
There's no retention. Dedicated retention.
So the house to the left, I guess, so 1273 would be about 8.5 feet from the lot line, and the house at 1279, I believe, is, or 1281, is 7.5
Where the fuck is the
from the lot
retention
line.
you're talking about?
So both of the neighboring properties met that 7.5-foot requirement?
Yeah.
That's why they were able to be built without any type of hearing or anything. Okay?
That lot was purchased by the original owner to stay vacant, and that's why his house is 7.5 feet close to the line. It was purchased in 1990, the original owner. And then he wanted his house, 7.5 feet, that's as close as he could go, so that's what he wanted. And that lot that you're building he bought that to stay vacant. 1990s when he bought it. Pardon me? He moved to Arizona. He sold it to somebody else, and you bought it from the person that he sold it to. You bought it within the last year, you bought it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And it was sold, I think, 3 or 4 years before that.
So if I understand this correctly, if the garage is built from the garage wall to the house wall to the left when you're facing the front of the building is 27.35 feet. That's the 2.5-foot difference. There's still a reasonable amount of space here.
And on the other side, it would be 24.8, so you're looking at 5 1/4. I mean, I guess it's, being the last house, obviously the two houses on either side,
Took advantage of the empty lot.
well, there was no house there, so they were able to do whatever. So now, as you say, the
Right,
burden is
the
on.
builder pushed it as far as he could, the 7.5 feet and the 8.5 feet, I know.
Right.
Interesting. Any further comments, or should we open up to the public? All right, at this point, we'll open it up to the public. If you wish to have something to say, there are forms back there so that we don't have to swear you in. You could sit if you want to, come back if you need to testify anything. Does anyone from the audience have any comments?
No retention over there, there's a lot behind the islands.
Okay. Yes, please come to the microphone.
Yes, yeah. There's no problem whatsoever.
State your name and address, please, for the record.
My name is Jay Monaghan. I live on Keim Trail. I have to ask to make sure everyone understands, what is being requested? Do they want to build a house that's bigger than the other houses, so they're going to be closer to the houses next to them? Is that the issue?
They said they wanted to build a typical for the other houses in the area, about 3,000 square feet.
What are they requesting? That they can be closer to the house next to them?
It's like taking a shoehorn to get your foot into a small shoe. You have to have 7.5 feet to the lot line, and you have to have 30 feet between buildings. Because the other houses were there first, they didn't worry about how close they might get to another house on that lot. So now there's no room to have 30 feet between the two building structures with this proposal.
Well, I've lived in different neighborhoods, and it certainly is true that the closer you are to the house next to you, the less desirable it is. So I don't think it would make sense to allow someone to build a home that's going to be too close to the two homes next to it. It would lower the value.
No, it'll be 30 feet between the house. It will be 30 feet between the houses.
And what's the issue?
No.
Well, they won't- All right,
It will be 27 and a third feet.
all right,
and
you're right, 27,
24.8 feet.
25. I'm sorry, that's right, I'm sorry.
27 and a third, and what was the other figure?
25.
Yeah, it was not 30, you're right, it was close, yes.
It's almost 30 feet.
Almost 30,
So
correct.
that's the same distance between all the other homes on the street?
Yes, it is.
I don't understand what the issue is.
I lived right behind that house. The issue is that, you were there when it was built, weren't you? Terry built that house.
We live down the street.
And that house, that lot was purchased to stay vacant in 1990. And he built the house at 1275. That was Terry that built that. Terry Glubish built that. And then he moved to Arizona. And then he sold the lot to somebody, and then they sold it to them. What it is, Terry built his house 7.5 feet. You need to be 7.5 feet from the property line. And you have to have 30 feet between the buildings. And they're going to make it, what, 27 feet and 24 feet? Yeah, so it'll be a little bit less on the separation. That's it.
Talking about 2.5 feet.
About 2.5 feet, yeah. Pardon me?
I mean, it would help if this showed the house next to it.
It does.
It does.
The houses next to it are shown. That's the house to the left of the...
It's 1275, and Keim built all those homes there.
So instead of the 30 feet that's required, they're requesting almost 20, just under 25 on the tightest side. And on the other side, they're requesting 27.3 feet. So it's close, but it doesn't make it. It's not like they're 15 feet apart or something.
Right.
So the rule's 30, and they're asking for 24.82 for the tightest condition. So that's a request, basically 5 out of 30.
Have they talked to the people that live next to them?
That's what I asked.
I'm sorry?
That's what I asked, and the answer was, we don't know.
Well, I do know.
We don't know whether they're against it or for it.
Well, the neighbor on the left had 2 trees fall on his house at that storm the other night. So he has 4 holes in his house in the roof where you can see. So he's got his hands full, so.
Yeah.
Well, I think it would be important to ask the 2 neighbors, is this going to bother you?
I mean,
That's,
do
they're the ones that are going to be affected, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
They would have got certified mailings about this meeting.
Yeah.
I believe they had the opportunity to speak
Yes.
at this meeting, and
Well, we're not going to worry about it if they're not here. That's their problem, not ours.
I agree, we just can't, because we don't know what's being proposed. We don't know if you're trying to build something that's way too big for the neighborhood.
No, the house will blend
Only
in.
the separations.
No.
If it fits on the lot, it's going to be considerably smaller in all likelihood than the rest of the homes in order to get the 30 feet.
Okay, I'd just like to know, we just want to know what's being talked about. We don't really,
They're good questions.
Yeah.
I think you were smart to ask, when you bought the lot, did you know what size house you were going to build?
exactly, right.
So that's all I was,
It's an unusual circumstance.
It is unique.
state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Rosara Peña, and I live at 1273 Keim Trail. Is this, yeah. Yeah, our concern is about the construction and all the noise, and having privacy, you know, when all that is happening. I know that it would help if it has that 30 feet. We don't mind if it's a little bit less, but my question is, if those requirements are there, why people, knowing the requirements, you know, do those plans knowing that it doesn't meet the requirements?
The petitioner, the people that are asking, say that this was a surprise to them after they bought the property. That's what they're telling us. And it is a unique situation to us.
And so the people on either side of this empty lot did not allow like 15 feet on their side, presuming that they would have 15 feet. They took advantage of having an empty lot there and didn't worry about it. And so now, being the last one there, they're trying to fit something that will fit in with the neighborhood.
Can I make one comment?
Yes.
So you need to go up to the.
Come up to the mic.
We
So-
have to document everything. I just wanted to say that when we were working with the architect on designing the house, we purposely put the garage on the left side of the house so that, I know you guys have windows that look into some family room or, I wasn't looking in, but I know that you have windows on that side. So we purposely put the garage on that side for their privacy and our privacy, frankly. And then our house more on the right side and the neighbors on the right side then have their garage. Does that make sense?
So that nobody is looking into somebody else's.
So that my family room doesn't back up to their family room or whatever.
Sunroom.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah, because it's, privacy is.
And the owner too, on the west side of the house. So for me, 2 feet is not big deal out of it. The thing is, you know, when the architect or the designer did the sketch and place where this kind of house is gonna be, it should be asked the builders first before, you know, what are the requirements. So at this point, for me, if they want to build at 3,000, 4,000, no problem, can I be 2 feet away from me? No problem. Or want to build some kind of privacy. If they are willing to do that, I have no problem with that. So.
Whatever house would,
Yeah, the new neighbor. And they're meeting each other every day. So, it's just privacy for
Okay.
the house. 2 feet is not big deal for me. 5.5 feet, I don't know, you know, neighbors.
Okay, I have a question. I mean, you were just speaking of privacy, so the garage is on that side. Are you speaking of privacy during the construction?
No, during the whole life, after the construction.
After the construction, okay.
Yeah, because otherwise, you know, the architect or whatever that did the design, and if he'll come to the buildings after the requirements, if they want to hit the 4,000 square feet, wonderful, but in order to comply with the requirements, he can go back another 5 feet, he will meet the requirements. It's another way too. But I am willing to work it out and be a good neighbor and get along, but I need privacy on my side.
Well, God bless you. There you are. That's exactly it. Take a look. That's the front elevation of the house down at the bottom. So that means that they put that third garage closest to your house, see? So that most of the house is 11 feet, 10 feet further than that, the two-story portion of the house. Now look above that, and that's the view of the house that you will see from your property. See? No windows on the garage, and one little tiny window, probably in a bathroom, 11 feet further from the edge of the garage. Pretty good.
Yeah, like you said, now, what about 2 feet? So, if the architect knew the rule, it should be put back another 5 feet in order to comply the requirement, but to this point is, we want to be good neighbors, we shall need the privacy, because who's gonna be complaining about the noises is gonna be them, because I got 3 kids, very noisy, they play soccer, they kick the ball everywhere, they're gonna break the windows.
Fair is fair.
Part of what I see wrong here is that houses on either side took full advantage
Yeah.
of being able to move the side of their building to
big deal.
the minimum.
A selfish
space requirement.
advantage, I might add.
And
This was,
the result of this, all of the responsibility for spacing falls on the new property owner.
that was my house right there.
It's kind of too bad that you have a varying number here that we're playing with. It's not 15 feet on either side of a line giving you 30 feet. It's 30 feet, and you figure out how to divide it. Well, the current homes have already decided what's going to be here. I think this is a reasonable request on the part of these people to want to fit this home here, because it's not their fault that the numbers, the space has already been used up by the existing homes. And to the question of, what's the size of the house? If there were no issues like we have tonight, the house could be built without having a meeting like this. It could be a smaller house, it could be a bigger house, but if it fit within all of the numbers, the parameters of this lot, there would be no issue. So in this case, size doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is the varying space problem here between the two sides.
Yeah, like I said, I got no problem with that, with 2 feet for me in my case, 2.6, side, 5.2. But if they're gonna get approved with the variance, also, I wanna submit a petition, because in my yard, the builder, he just placed a catch and basin in the middle of the yard where my kids play soccer. If I can move that catch and basin to the corner, which will be the more visible, we will be happy. Why they put it a catch and basin in the middle of my yard? I should have put it in the side, in the corners.
That was the builder that did that at construction.
Because I want to get also variation too. If they're gonna get variation, I want to get variation too.
So the kids get wet when they have to go out for the soccer ball, right?
And there's another catch basin off behind you to the right.
The reason more, if somebody got a brain, I cannot put it in the middle of the yard, just to put it inside.
Behind their vacant lot, there's another catch basin in the corner.
I expect I work for IDA. I expect the construction, if we design it appropriately, to not create a problem for somebody gonna get hurt. That one for me is an issue. I would like to submit also a request in order to move the catch basin to the corner.
That's a matter for your association, I would believe,
Everybody gonna.
because of common engineering. It's not the purview of this organization.
That's something that we would oversee.
And one more, the last point is, I have a lot of problem with the big trees. 2 trees fall in my house. They smash my roof. So 2 trees, I think 2 trees are in the property. They are leaning back to my house. Now I got paranoia. Yeah, and a lot. 2 trees fall in my roof. They smash. Almost hit on my baby.
Very reasonable request.
That is also not something that's part of our
Too long, and I
business.
can't even understand that.
No, I have a question to them.
Talk to the,
It's between you.
you guys, or talk to the homeowner association.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Yes. Yes, come up.
My name is Tom Glass, Joe's there. I know this gentleman who just spoke. My son has been in contact with him, and he had no problem at the time whatsoever. His drain pipes were draining onto my son's land, and he said, "Don't worry about it, I'll move it, and I'll drain it to the back like it's supposed to." That was his comment to my son. Is that correct?
Yeah, but that was responsibility for the original builder. He did that, you know. I've been looking for those pipes, I couldn't find it. I just do one so far. Yeah, like two, I couldn't find it. I don't know if they are.
So we made the assumption he's going to put the pipes back to his retention area, as we will. I'm assuming as the neighbor will on the other side. And as far as the noise, it's construction. You all live in your house, they make noise when they go. Anybody who's lived there, they didn't sit there in silence the whole time they were going home.
But it'll be over in due time.
No, I'm not complaining about it when they building construction.
As far as privacy,
I complain
you
about
have
the
these trees
my
there.
kids. Gonna keep the pool, gonna be very noisy. And then you gotta be out.
I think we should move along.
All right, let's move along. That's something that you guys need to work out. Anyone else have any comments from the audience? Any further discussion from the board or motions?
I just think it's a very unique situation, and the new property owner is, as we said, kind of having to deal with it now. So my comment, based on the findings of fact, that, yeah, it's what I see as a fairly small variance to be able to utilize the lot to put up a house of similar design and size to the houses in the neighborhood. So I don't have a problem with it.
I would agree. I think it's a shame that obviously the people on either side took the stick-it-to-you neighbor attitude when they built their houses, and they took advantage of having an empty lot there and make sure that all the onus was on the new people that had to try to slip their house in on the empty lot. And so we need to be able to give some type of relief to somebody to get a house built there. People are trying to do something. Any further comments or motions?
You talked about the You talked about the catch base. There's two catch basins back there. There's one to the right of you and one to the left of you. Neither one is on your lot, though. But there's two catch basins there.
There was previously piping that came out onto our lot.
That was, yeah, Joe Keim did that original construction. That's all 1990 that was done.
They said it was fine for the pipe to stay on there to drain water onto the lot while we weren't living, when it was a vacant lot.
Yeah.
And our contractor just said that we needed to communicate to them that it's gonna have to be cut.
Okay.
Yes.
I would make a motion to pass along a positive recommendation to the village board to approve number 2210 for the 1277 Keim Trail.
Okay, at this point, we have a motion on the floor. I shall close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
So I just want to make a comment.
Their hearing is
Hearing is
closed.
But I just want to make
It's too bad. The hearing is closed. We have a,
neighbor's integrity. It's not true about the lumens.
you should have said something when we had a public hearing. It's over. We have a motion on the floor, moved by George, seconded by John Miazzo. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Charlie DeVoe,
Yes.
Mark Hopkins,
Yes?
Julie Kapatakakis,
Yes.
George Koziel,
Yes?
John Miasso,
Yes?
Bob Picaro,
Yes.
Mike Weirden.
Yes. Okay, we shall pass on a positive motion to the board. Stay in touch with them to see when it gets on the agenda. Next item on the agenda, case number 20-18, Dunkin' Donuts on Schick Road. Are the petitioners present? Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm that the evidence you're about to give is only the whole truth? Yes. And do we have the evidence of the mailings, the newspaper, and the picture of the sign? Yes, we do. Mark those exhibits A, B, and C. Please state your name and address for the record and present your case.
Yes, thank you. My name is Eric Carlson. I'm with ECA Architects, address 24 North Bennett Street in Geneva. Okay, so I am here representing the Dunkin' franchisee, Akhtar, and we're proposing a Dunkin' Donuts with a drive-through at the northwest corner of Schick and 59, identified in the circle there. There are actually two lots there. We are essentially dividing the one, well, it's a third roughly. So what we're looking at specifically is lot one with the Dunkin' Donuts. We're here requesting 4 items. One is a preliminary and final subdivision approval for the 2 lots, because currently it's 1 lot. The second is for a site plan approval for the drive-through Dunkin' Donuts. Third is the special use permit for the drive-through, which is required in the B3 PUD zoning. And lastly, a parking variation to allow parking in a side yard setback. Starting with that one, the reason for the variation for the parking request is that there is a 25-foot right-of-way dedication along 59 that shortens our original lot line. So the ordinance is 50 feet, and we're requesting 30 feet.
Do you know if that, is that for a right turn lane or future widening of 59?
That would be for a future right turn lane.
Okay.
Yes, for future dedication for the right turn lane onto Schick. Let's see, we work with staff really extensively. I'll try to walk through the site plan here. There's a full access point right here, which is off of Schick Road. It's across from the adjacent property there. And that access will be shared with a future tenant in the large lot, which is pointed
Probably some good planning.
But we do have an outdoor, so the Dunkin' Donuts itself is roughly 2,000 square foot, shy under that. It will have 12 indoor seats, and then there's an outdoor seating area here that will, will seat up to maybe 24 people. We've got a nice level of landscaping along Schick and 59, all in compliance with the ordinance.
So just for clarification, the traffic flow, you're kind of tight, so it's going to be one way going northbound on the west frontage along 59 and southbound on the east frontage of the lot.
That is correct, yeah, they cycle in through here, wrap around, drive through, or park, 60-degree parking here, and then exit same way they came.
I think I missed that.
Okay, let me try again.
All right, so they come in, wait,
You're coming in the single access drive.
Right.
When you're coming around here,
so that's the east side.
That's the west side.
east side, yes, you're correct, east side. So you
That's
come in
59.
on the East side of the building, thank you. And park here.
Yeah.
Or continue past the building into the drive-through lanes, and then you exit on the west side.
Okay,
And south side,
gotcha. Thank you.
directly challenged. The building will comply with the Dunkin' Donuts prototypical look. It consists of cement board siding. Cement board siding is the gray area, and then there is an accent panel here. There's some metal panel boards up here. Actually, I take that back. These are a cement board panel as well. And then accent pieces here with some metal accents in there for a white and, white and pink accent colors that go with the Dunkin' Donut colors. And then there's a small orange canopy, again, consistent with the Dunkin' branding, so very typical from that standpoint. You've seen the newer buildings, they do look pretty sharp, in general, a little more modern than the old stacked, multicolored tower. The owner proposing a 24-hour facility, although currently due to labor shortages and such, when first opening, you will be open around 4 o'clock in the morning until about 11 p.m. Until staffing comes back, and then you'll reconsider and potentially go to a 24-hour facility if business warrants it. Incorrect on the materials, so I think there is a gray face brick actually on these sections here, with the cement board panels, this gray here, and this white here, and then brown here.
I'm not able to open my attachment on the email. That is the only ingress egress is on Schick Road, right?
That's correct.
There's nothing to the north and nothing along 59 with a right in, right out.
That is correct, and I'll jump to that in a second. I'll just point out real quick here. So here is the elevation that would be around along 59. This is the elevation that would be facing Schick. This is the drive-through elevation, which is adjacent to the second parcel, and then this would be the back of the building that would be towards the drive. So again, here's this one-way access point into the site. This is the only in and out of that development.
Will there be a, when you come off of 59 and going on the Schick, Lloyd, is there a plan or an idea to develop a turn lane on Schick? Because I was just there today, and it's, people come around that corner pretty quickly, however you want to put it. And it would make much more sense if you had a right-hand turn lane into that area there. I don't know how that works out with the village.
It's actually the state's decision, so that because there is anticipated that there will be a need for that at some point, that is why the petitioner is dedicating 25 feet of right-of-way along Route 59 to accommodate a future turn lane. But at this point, IDOT is not requesting it be installed.
Okay, I'm not talking about 59.
You're
Talking about Schick Road.
Widening Schick Road.
Widening Schick Road, because people come zipping around that corner, and you may have a backup of cars trying to get into the Dunkin' Donuts. Could be, because right now, it's just a single lane.
Right. I don't think at this point there's been any plans to widen it and to add anything, a right turn lane onto Route 59.
That's not what I'm asking.
No, he's talking about when you turn in there.
Oh, into the
Up on
site?
59
Into the
on
site?
Into the site, yeah.
We're towards the middle of the site, we're adjacent
Well,
to this left end over here.
I know.
So we're right in, which is going to be way easier.
I was right there today.
And our stacking, your ordinance requires 6 cars stacked, and we have 12. And way more than that ability to come all the way in here before you're impeding any
Okay.
traffic. So there's a lot of cars.
And you're aligning the curb cut with the 7-Eleven, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that makes, you can see how that works. Question on your stacking?
And we've got a generous curve here, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, a question on your stacking is at the pinch point there. Are you confident that if the stacking backs up, that people will still have room to egress from the parking lot?
Yeah, there's going to be, even if we've got 20-something cars in there and it backs up to this point, these people.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean at the beginning of the drive-through stacking, where the parking lot pinches down.
Yes.
So if you have a line of cars that happens to extend back into the parking lot, everybody else can still get by.
At that particular point, you're not going to be having you would have the stack here, you would not have a bypass. You would have the stack there, yeah.
But there's still room for people that could get out of the parking lot and go by the waiting cars, waiting for the stacking. I'm familiar with the Dunkin' in Bloomingdale that gets 18 cars regularly. This isn't, they're all different, but.
Oh, yeah.
So this would be the pinch point.
So there would be enough room, I can't exactly see the dimensions, so I don't want to misread it, but there's going to be, I believe, at least 16 feet.
Yeah, it depends on the drive aisle, right? But it seems like to me, that was the only question I had on the site plan right there.
Yeah. So if they're going to be stacking, they're going to be stacking kind of along the building.
Yeah.
So there would be enough for vehicles to move around the site.
Barely at 16 feet.
It's 18 feet.
Is it 18?
It's 18 feet.
That's way better. You'd love it to be 24. Okay.
So that's all I have for presentation, so I'll open up for questions.
Any further questions from the board before we open up to the public?
Yeah, is there a plan to save the old trees?
What?
There's a group of old trees there that need to be saved. So I'm not sure how much Dunkin' Donuts property is going to interfere with it, but there are some that are been there quite a while. Big pine tree. They're not listed on there as far as when I looked. I'm just asking a general question. And are they prepared for the competition on 59? For all the coffee shops that are on 59? There are at least 10 coffee shops on 59.
There's another Dunkin' Donuts in 59, too.
Place now, so that location would be relocating to this side.
Okay.
And he does well over there. This is just a higher traffic.
Okay.
And it has the drive-through.
Okay, so that one's, all right, so that one will eventually be shut down or whatever. Okay. Good luck.
What do you have for coffee choices?
Yes, they do.
Any other questions? Okay, at this point, we'll open it up to the public. Does anyone in the audience have anything to say?
Jim Peplow?
I'm president of Brentwood Homeowners Association, which is on the next lot in the corner of Quincy Bridge and Schick. And just starting at their pinch point, that is a horrible intersection. 59 and Schick. Accidents, but there's constantly too much traffic turning into the gas station, which actually has some turn lane there. And there's always people backing up there. So I would be concerned with the Dunkin' Donuts entrance there. I can almost guarantee you that the association is not for a 24-hour Dunkin' Donuts. That there, I suppose on the lot, the garbage is going to be in the back of the lot, which is right next to the preschool. Which I think would be bad. And then what is going into lot 2? Right now you have nothing. Kind of a separate issue is on the south side of our subdivision. It's low, we flood. The houses at the bottom, one mine included, I've gone through over 12 sump pumps in 5 years. What is it going to do to the water level in that area for us? Especially, you know, got this, and then if you put something in behind that, who's going to maintain that road? Right now, those roads are petitioned to the individual owners, and it's kept up like crap. We have to complain all the time that they have to fill the potholes. Is the village going to take care of that? Who's going to take care of that? The snow plowing. Right there on the corner of Schick and Quincy Bridge Road is also a bus stop for all the kids in the neighborhood for our street. There is no way of walking through to get to the other subdivisions. That's their way to get out. So now you're talking about putting more traffic. We get traffic going for the car wash. We get traffic going for the preschool. A little bit later, you get Culver's, you get the Goodwill. That road isn't big enough. As it is, they come around for the Culver's. They're coming into the outgoing traffic. How there's not traffic accidents there all the time, I don't know. What about the lights? I know when Culver's was brought in, we had to think about lights and how they're going to be, you know, the parking lot and all that. And I was told it's rule is run candlelight after they close, which we've had a few issues, but Culver's has been very good about it. The car wash has turned down their lights in the evening, but a 24-hour store is going to be on all the time. And we're 100 feet away looking at that.
Couple of hundred.
That, you know, what would go on about that? Garbage pickup. That's one of the things that's been kind of brought up in our association. Is the garbage is picked up at 5 o'clock in the morning by these trucks, or before, and it's pretty noisy, slamming into all the different stuff. So I have to complain to you. But the other thing, one of the main things is, you know, when you're going to put that roof of the parking lot, the water, where's that water going to go? Is that, you know, it's concerned about that. Those are my questions to you.
Sapna Patel?
Hi, I'm Sapna Patel. I live in Woodland Hills on Southgate Road, right actually 2 houses away from Schick. So my main concern is my children go to that preschool that this gentleman referred. And I'm very familiar with that morning traffic between the bus stop, between Schick and 59, and between morning drop-off and
what is the safety measures in fact for that bus stop for the kids who are going to that preschool? And now that I've seen the plans, yeah, I'm not thrilled that my kids play yard, because the preschool play yard, one of the playgrounds faces where the garbage dump is, where the dumpsters are gonna be. I mean, and that's the toddler side of the preschool play yard, so like the older kids are on the side that faces the car wash. So little kids, I don't know, that makes me uneasy that the children would be facing this garbage dumpsters. And the potholes have been a historic issue on Quincy Bridge Road. Our preschool and get numerous complaints. I know the principal's always apologizing for the potholes because you can see they're fixed all the time, and it's always a lot of, I don't know the process of how it gets done. So yeah, add traffic into that line, backing onto Schick Road. We use Schick Road to leave in the morning, so now if there's traffic in the morning because of other Dunkin' Donuts, you see how many cars are backed up in the morning. What does that do for homeowners who are trying to leave Woodland Hills, trying to get, or any of those homes in that area trying to get to work in the morning? But those are just all my concerns when this happens.
I think some of the blind spot issue, like if you're going to Culver's and then you come down to Schick, you have to really creep out and look both directions because cars do come zipping along. But if you have north and southbound traffic on 59 stopping at Dunkin' Donuts, they're not even going to go as far west as Quincy Bridge. They're gonna, if they can't get out, if there's a backup on Schick because of the stoplight, they're gonna have.
They'll go through the entrance by Culver's, come down, which they do. For the school year, that's what they do.
Yeah, but they can't, if they can't continue north, they can't go out that entrance.
There's a turn lane by the car wash that people cut through. They cut through in between the car wash and Culver's. They cut through that, turn on and stick down Schick either direction. It happens hundreds of times a day, all the time. I see it when I'm picking my kids up. I see it when we're walking to Culver's.
I know if they're trying to turn left on 59 from that right in, right out, it's an accident waiting to happen. That's why there's a no left turn. Wow.
I watched a guy almost cut a lady off coming out of there. Going through.
Kids already bike to the culvert there, so now I don't know. That's not you're just gonna have more kids. Between the 7-Eleven and culvert, there's already a million kids running around on bikes around there. I can't imagine what those were my comments. Thank you for your time.
Reed Root?
I don't have much to add because James is taking care of most of our community concerns because I live in the condo area back there. I just wanted to reiterate that bit about 59 on that Culver's turn off. They turn left all the time. It's not high enough to stop those people from turning there. And if we could get a stop sign at the corner of our condo complex on Schick Road, so there's people coming around that corner from there, would stop instead of coming out of there 90 miles an hour. That would help also. Thank you.
Just for clarification, where are you saying a stop sign would be warranted?
You have your marker?
I believe it's there.
Well, there it is. Okay. Right?
Oh.
Now he's got it. The picture.
Probably the aerial. Do the aerial.
I believe I'm talking at Quincy Bridge Court and Quincy Bridge Road.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Are you able to reopen that or trying to add it?
Right here. On this, yes, right there in that corner right there. People coming from the car wash, the school, Goodwill, they don't turn out to go at 59.
Could I ask where they're going when you're saying they're going straight on Quincy Bridge?
They come down 59, go down that cutoff, and come out on it. They take the turn between the car wash and Culver's just to go around the stoplight. So they can make the turn on the Schick Road to head back into Woodland.
Or to go back on 59.
Avoid the light.
Schick to get to the other side of 59.
To avoid the light, people use that term.
I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't either.
I was just there yesterday too with my
My dentist is there.
new
and I
driver,
work
my
gas
son.
station there.
Pretty scary.
Yes, forms of that. Laura Bocom?
What? You can do that.
To just, again, voice my concern more on the water impact, the grading, having now Dunkin' Donuts out of the pavement. I know we said in engineering plans that it would have an underground water retention facility, but where is that water going? Where is it being discharged? The water now that we have there that's constantly kind of running toward our building, there's a kind of in the, I guess the southwest corner of the pod is a large detention area that holds water constantly. There's a lot of trees there. And if that were to, the water was running that way from the building, would we get more? Would our building flood more than it already is? Lost count with some pump number I'm on after 32. So just would be very concerned kind of where the outfall would be, where the water discharge is going from the actual Dunkin' Donuts, from the underground storage facility that they have there. And then just my other concern would be what is the future for the other lot? I think it's at lot 2 in the picture. I said it said shared access would be from Schick Road. Would there be required a second access once a business is there? What is it zoned? What could be going there? And I guess when would be a question too, of when the client might decide to build something. There's some trees there that are kind of buffering the Quincy Bridge Road, Schick and Quincy Bridge Boulevard. Would those trees stay? Would they go? Some of the oak trees also actually right where the Dunkin' Donuts is. And then just piggybacking on lighting, hours of operation, garbage pickup, points, and of course traffic and potholes. But my biggest concern would be the water, and we get water off. Where's the water?
Is there some underground storage like what CVS has?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. I figured we'd go through the questions and then the petitioner will respond afterwards,
okay.
so that we're not going back and forth and back and
Okay.
forth. Argelin Batista?
A lot of speakers.
Good evening. So actually, I live in 1441 Quincy Bridge Court, Bartlett, Illinois, and I live in the corner of the Quincy Road, and I think I'm the person that is really affected with the construction that is going on. You know, I have the balcony, and I've been there for like 12 years. Every time I look out my balcony, I could see the trees. So my concern is that's a very beautiful place, peaceful and everything. Now the safety of our children is at risk because of this traffic that is like, they're gonna build a 24-hour Dunkin' Donut near our property. And it's so hard for us to, like, even if we turn during the day, it's like kind of unsafe for us because the car is just like speeding. even if we have a stop sign, you look at your left side, it's just the car is like, it goes so fast that you could hardly even if you stop, and then there is just a car, because it's a blind spot, you could not see. So, as the president, our president was saying, I agree, I told everyone that was here, it's really bad for us, that's all.
John Warner?
Can you show me which one of these is the laser pointer? Is it right here in the middle? Yeah. So, like we talked about earlier with the entrance being here, this is the 7-Eleven entrance, I'm guessing. This entrance frequently backs up past the entrance of 7-Eleven with cars trying to get out. There'll be absolutely zero egress for Dunkin to use it because it's already full with 7-Eleven customers, which is going to create this flow. You're going to go back in and again and out here, like you said. It's going to be zero traffic. There'll be no availability here. Everyone's going to have to go through this frontage road and back around. And I live here on Quincy Bridgeport. Again, looking out at that direction, there's a hole in my fence. It's meant there intentionally, but the kids constantly walk through it to cut through there. That area could not be any more dangerous because of the constant traffic from the car wash, which I use it. I'm a member, even though I don't like this right behind my house, but the traffic is insane coming out of that way, looping back around. Moving traffic in the other direction from Dunkin is going to make this just a nightmare. We're not going to be able to get off the block. This is my guess. There's already a problem, like everyone said, with the car wash traffic, the Culver's traffic. It all funnels back through Quincy Ridge Road and up onto Schick. They don't use that exit on the 59 because it's just not viable without the light. So we have all the traffic piled back through from those two sides, back up onto Schick to use the light, if you understand what I'm saying. There's no room for any more traffic, especially with the Schick entrance. If we were to have the 59 entrance, it might be a little more viable, but otherwise, it's just going to create this traffic circle for our neighborhood. And I have to reiterate about Lot 2, I would essentially call it a swamp. It is so low lying. To raise the level of that, to build on it, will create a major water problem for our neighborhood. If you've seen there, it's not low lying, it's just locked. You would not want to walk through it. But between the traffic flow, I see it'd be a problem when it's built like that. The traffic would be a nightmare.
Those are all the ones that I have. If you want to speak, and then you can give it to me afterwards.
My name's Eric Duquesne. I also live in Quincy Bridgeport over there. My only concerns, like everybody else has said, is the traffic. Hearing that they want permission to remove that reservation for a turn lane on 59. I think it's a bad idea because that's one of the most dangerous intersections in Bartlett. I see accidents there all the time. And then the trees. I mean, there's beautiful trees. It looks really nice when you turn in there. I was just asking, is there plans to reuse the trees that are already there? It seems like a waste. You have trees out of the ground to put new trees in when those are already grown and been there for a long time. Again,
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a question for staff, and this is regarding traffic flow. You picture this situation, you're southbound on 59, you're going to make the right turn to go west on Schick. That's one lane. And from that one lane, we feed the gas station and the future Dunkin' Donuts. What happens if traffic backs up on Schick between 59 and the two entrances? What kind of problem can this extend out onto 59? Will it cause a queuing problem?
When our traffic engineer looked at the traffic study, she did not think that the Dunkin' Donuts warranted any changes to what's existing, but did state that when Lot 2 develops, additional studying should be done on that, how that intersection is functioning.
Was the Quincy Bridge Road considered when it did that study, or just 59 and Schick? Because you have to consider the entire traffic to make it a balanced study.
I'm trying to find my old emails from her to see what it entailed.
Because it will jam up, so the question is, which way is it going to flow out? And the only real inlet is back around the neighborhood. And again, like someone was saying, just trying to turn off at 59 into Schick is going to be impossible with the constant flow of Dunkin traffic trying to make a left to get back onto 59. Because they won't turn into Bartlett at that end. So they're going to have to either take the frontage road or just jam up trying to get out. Because that left lane to get to 59 from Schick is already filled with 7-Eleven customers. There'll be no egress out of the Dunkin lot into that side without blocking traffic.
People who live in like the Woodland Hill subdivision, I mean, I know you guys too. If there's a red light at 59 and Schick, we'll turn down the turn lane between Culver and the gas station and go down Quincy Bridge Road to not have to wait. It happens all the time. So I can only foresee in the future, in the morning, people are getting gas at 7-Eleven and trying to get coffee, and now there's a whole backup on 59. It's gonna go right down. And right at that corner of Schick and Quincy Bridge Road is where there's a bus stop for kids when school starts in August, very soon. On Schick and 15, Schick and Southgate, which is where I live, there's another bus stop where my kids is simply standing. And then there's the preschool where everyone is trying to get to drop kids off at home.
And in the morning, the buses are there and the traffic is going out of.
You guys, it's really hard to do the minutes when people are talking from the audience, so if you could go up and just reintroduce yourself, so when we're doing the minutes, we make sure things are accurate for the record. The village board gets copies of all of the discussion.
When Culver's first went in, I had talked about the traffic flow, and I was told it's not gonna be a problem. But it is a problem. There's some traffic going around, they come down off 59, they come in on the Schick, they turn, like I said, onto Quincy Bridge. How there's not accidents there, coming into the oncoming traffic. In the morning, the school, Bartlett High School, the kids can't get through the turn lane on 59, so they come through Culver's, they come down Quincy Bridge, they turn on to Schick. There's mornings it takes me 15 minutes to get out of the subdivision to go to work.
15.
Yeah, because you get, not only does it back up that left-hand turn lane or it's going straight, it'll back up because the buses are there. It goes past the doctor's office, it goes all the way to the first street. I don't know what the name of the street is in Woodland Hills there. But the traffic is backed up all the way to there.
In the morning?
In the morning. And then you're gonna put, I understand, the village wants revenue and all that, I get it, but there's just gonna be accidents galore over there. Not to mention how hard it is now. A number of years ago, like 3 years ago, we put in a sidewalk to try and get across to the path on Schick, so we could get to the parks in the neighborhood. It's like taking your life in your own hands across that street. And I was told, well, people coming off 59 and they're driving fast, it takes them, 5-6 blocks to slow down. Well, it's very dangerous. And then now to have people try to get across to get to the Culver's or to the Dunkin' Donuts, there's no sidewalks. It's just very dangerous for everybody in that area. I just hope you look at that. I know, the traffic study said there was no problem, but I cannot see how there is no problem with that traffic flow.
Could we revisit the frontage road again, where that road comes into play? Is that in front of the car wash, that they would be coming in through the car wash area, was one of the suggestions off of 59? So that's an existing frontage road, right in front of the car wash and the Chesterbrook?
In front of the entrance to the neighborhood.
I'm referring to off of Route 59. Is there a frontage? This is more or less for the petitioner. Is it off of Route 59?
I'm sorry.
The frontage road, is it off of Route 59 that you're planning on people coming in off of? So how would they enter into the Dunkin' Donuts if they don't come to the intersection of Schick and 59?
That's the only way.
Yeah, that's the only way.
They can't turn right in between the Culvers and the car wash? There's not an in from the right turn lane from the traffic going southbound?
I don't see why they would, because it's right in, right out from 59 into that car wash area, if I'm not mistaken, right?
So they couldn't access the frontage road from the car wash into the Dunkin' Donuts?
No.
They would, because they would pass that and they would turn right on Schick Road and go right into the parking lot of the Dunkin' Donuts. They wouldn't access the Dunkin' from north of the site.
I patronize the car wash in Culver's a lot. My problem is then exiting Quincy Bridge down to Schick, people are really zipping out of the subdivision coming from the west, and you almost get hit there. I haven't had any backup problems, but I haven't been there at 6:30 in the morning either.
I think what else they would do, and I think what Julie was alluding to, is they're coming off 59, they're jumping on that little frontage road between the Everclean and Culver's, and then they zip down Quincy Road, Quincy Bridge, and then they take a left, and then they take a left into the, or try to take a left into the Dunkin' Donuts. So there's two ways to get into the Dunkin' Donuts. You just can't get into it off of 59.
I think that's what I was gonna say, is people make that turn, make that loop all the time, where they go in between Culver's and Evergreen, and then they go down Quincy Bridge, and then we'll go either back into Woodland Hills, so making a right down Schick, or we'll go to 7-Eleven. And that happens all the time. I am curious to know when the traffic studies were done, because I live on Southgate Road, and when school is in session, I'm 2 houses deep on Southgate and Schick, and it can take me 15 minutes to get it to 59 from my house because of the bus stop and just the sheer amount of traffic. So I am curious to know when the traffic studies were done, because if the assumption is there's not going to be any traffic, I mean, I don't see how that's possible, because just with 7-Eleven and buses alone, it can take us 15 minutes to just get to 59 sometimes. And yeah, I mean, definitely that loop of traffic is a guaranteed problem almost, because, and then that in turn, that's not even taking into account parents who are going the other direction on Quincy Bridge trying to get into Chesterbrook, the preschool's parking lot, because there's only one entrance point to the Chesterbrook parking lot. So where does that traffic go then? If people are going this way to get to Dunkin' Donuts, where are we supposed to go to drop off our kids? It's not a very wide road.
Just to, I'm a little naive about that area down there. There's no back way to get to Army Trail Road from that development?
Army Trail.
Yes. But you've got to go all the way in, make a big circle, which is,
So it's a pain.
It's a
yeah.
Thank you.
Army Trail, that's a long way.
Christie, can you share any additional information on the traffic study? You mentioned that specifically 59 and Schick, the study showed that they didn't believe there to be a problem. But was there any, as the one woman asked, I mean, is there any other information in the study regarding traffic on Quincy Bridge Road or through the Culver's lot?
Not that I have found. Eric, is your traffic consultant here?
No, they're not. I don't know. I know for sure the intersection there was studied through various times on different days to evaluate
People will do anything to get somewhere, to avoid the traffic light.
But
Avoid
then
the
you got
traffic light.
two left turns, so they're not too bright.
South on 59.
Well, southbound and northbound, they will turn left on there, and that median strip or road, whatever you want to call it, between the culverts and the car wash, they will turn left on the north.
So primarily, the way that Dunkin does their sites or chooses their sites is to capitalize on morning traffic. So, and I know there's traffic in both ways, but it's typically a commuter location, meaning that people come off the road, they go get their coffee, and they go back, generally continuing in the same direction that they are going to work or, in some cases from work. But the busiest time for Dunkin' obviously is in the morning, typically from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And after that, it's pretty sparse. You might get times where it's busier. But I've spent many hours sitting in front of Dunkin's counting the drive-through, the amount of time it takes for a car to sit in a queue and go through that. And I've done many personal studies on that. I've done probably 100 or plus Dunkin' Donuts locations. So I'm pretty familiar with the time. So, and the mindset of the people who come there. So I think, in my opinion, we've done a traffic study for that intersection of 59 and Schick, which is primarily where the southbound traffic is going to be coming, and they're going to make that easy right turn and an easy right into Dunkin' and then circle through that. As far as the exiting the Dunkin' Donuts, again, traffic study, the traffic engineer did look at that, exiting that, and studied that intersection with cars exiting Schick Road on 59, 7-Eleven, and the proposed, traffic flow of what a Dunkin' would be, and they didn't see any issues with that on our side as well as the village's traffic study. So as far as that village corner of the Schick 59, that's been studied by 2 professional traffic engineers, and their studies and their personal accounts that they do for that area. So,
These done like during COVID time or like?
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say.
I don't remember the date of the study, but it was within a year's time, and they do take into consideration some of the changes in the flow because of maybe less traffic, but it was not 2 years ago when COVID, when people were not traveling anymore. I can see how with the culverts, the car wash, and the elementary school, why you would come, because of the right in, right out, in that flow, because you don't have any direct access, it's challenging for people, because those are people who are coming. Culver's has a completely different demographic than Dunkin'. It's a lunchtime and dinner business, and they have people coming from all different directions. Where Dunkin' is primarily on your work, get it and go, back and on your same route. There's so many of Dunkin' Donuts, if there's a more convenient one, they'll use it. So convenience is a big thing for that. So when you got a car wash and a Culver's, which are a different demographic, if you're going to have people going north and south consistently throughout the day, and with the right in, right out, the only way they can get back to 59 is through Quincy Ridge Road if they're heading northbound. So I do see that there can be problems with that, and maybe that's something that the village and police can work through to help some of those problems. I don't know.
I'm sure at some point we'll have to petition IDOT to change the timing on the lights, because it's kind of short on Schick.
Any potential that the entrances won't be on 59? Because the Schick entrance is one of my biggest concerns. It will just block and destroy that exit. If they were all on 59, there would be a flow. I'm not sure what 59 is, what hurt everybody. But the way it is now, it's going to be bad exit. Getting in is going to be easy, like you said. It's the leaving, which is going to create traffic flow. Yeah, I think people get into a problem.
So IDOT has jurisdiction of where they will allow curb cuts on Route 59. And due to the proximity to the intersection, they're not likely to allow a right-in, right-out. As you can see, the two lots to the north do not have direct access. They all have that shared right-in, right-out between the car wash and Culver's.
I was not involved in the original part of the project. I know there were discussions with IDOT to gain the right in access only for the northern part of the site. I don't have enough personal information to know the results and the conversations back and forth on that, but I know that that was a discussion prior to my involvement with the project under, I think, it was you or even somebody else that had that site. But that was a consideration at one point. And I know that when we were involved, it was determined that that was not an option for us moving forward.
You have to come up to the microphone to be heard.
Hi, my name is Sandy Carroll. I live over that way down Schick, and there's a big high school down there. And so you had, I believe you had said that the Dunkin' Donuts is going to have 23 outside seats, outside and inside sitting. Why, when that high school gets out, Bartlett High School, and they come down there, I think you're going to attract all the high school kids that come down here, go in there, and that's where they'll hang out. So I could predict that you're going to see a lot of business, which is good for Dunkin' Donuts, from the high school crowd as well. Now you got high school kids, and you got grammar school kids, and I didn't even know about this part by, the parks on this Quincy Road. But when I come down here, it's really hard to make that turn. When you come out of Quincy Road, it's awful. It's just awful to make that turn, and you don't know what's coming because you can't see. So I appreciate the comments from all of the people that live in that area, because I don't want to happen here what happened at Bartlett High School. On the first day it opened, we had my son's best friend died because there was no light, and you all know about that. There was no light.
That was on Army Trail Road, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Army Trail, yeah.
I see a lot of concerns here with kids. That's
Can you fill out one of the white forms for us so we can have your name for the record?
Sure.
Thank you.
I just wanted some clarity from this lady here that spoke. Is that the blind spot you were referring to that she just referred to?
Yes.
When you're trying to creep out of the, okay. And then I also had another question for the petitioner about the water flow and the other property. Could we address that a little bit as far as the concerns that the residents have?
I can, yeah. So on the southwest corner of the site, there is that floodplain area, and that's documented as wetland area on that property. So it's, yeah, it is, it's not something that we are directly dealing with our site. Our site is going to be self-contained. The water flow is controlled and captured. One of the requirements you know, I wanted to address a couple other quick things too. So as far as, you know, there was a comment regarding the trees and the screening. So again, our development is obviously on the parking side of the development of the property. And we do have, I can't tell you what trees existing are staying, I don't remember specifically, but, you know, we are doing it, you know, anything that comes out is being replaced, and we do have a nice line of trees on our west property line as well as on the south end, so we're kind of replacing anything that is going to be bigger. Obviously, they're new trees, they will mature, they will grow, and they're still probably in general more than what's coming out is going to be put back in there. And again, those parkway trees that are along the south end of the property will also be in addition to what's there now. Go back to that aerial view, you'll see a lot of those trees. Zoom in on that again, please. Our site kind of runs through the U of that, and if you just take that as the top of the D through the U, perpendicular to that northern property line, the majority of the trees are more on that westerly side. There is some along 59 right as we come in, but the majority of those are sitting on that west side of where our property line is going to be. Trash enclosure is also, it's going to be a masonry brick trash enclosure that's 6 feet high, so the trash dumpster is not going to be visible, and there is some landscaping that is around that unit, including the trees there as well. Pickup times for the trash are typically early. Not sure what's causing that.
I don't think it's you. You're one of the next.
All right. Trash and right. So, it's, you know, I'm guessing that the.
When you held it, it stopped before. Yeah.
Rockstar. So I think, you know, I mean, I don't know what time the culverts pick up times and some of those other businesses around there. I'm guessing that's probably similar, and there's ordinances for that, those pickups and times. So I think we'll comply with that, and it's going to be probably consistent with the other businesses that are around there, the gas station, the culverts, some of those.
Does that line of trees go all the way to Quincy Ridge Road?
On the south end, it does. And also there's a sidewalk. I know there was some concern or discussion about pedestrian traffic, and the sidewalk that does kind of run along the whole south side is new. So as far as people being able to walk from that, at least it's a safer environment to walk down there.
And the village did one. I see, I see. So and the village doesn't take any issue with their traffic study?
They concurred with it, but felt additional study would be needed when Lot 2 develops.
Who came around?
Correct.
And what I'm hearing is the result of that traffic study, when we don't know when it was taken, right? But not in the depths of COVID, we don't think. Okay. That the Dunkin would provide no substantial change to the current condition. That's the phrase I heard. So if it's dysfunctional now, there's no no substantial change to the dysfunction. Okay? But that upon the study of when we get a site plan for Lot 2, and this land was zoned commercial in 1988, right? So it's expected that something is going to come to this piece of property. It just happens to be coming now, right? So I'm hearing that this particular development is not going to have a negative impact upon the existing pattern, whatever it is, good or bad.
Correct.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that. And also that the stormwater is, that our village engineer is going to assure that, like every other development, that this site performs way better in its developed form than it does in its raw form with regard to stormwater discharge rate.
Correct.
Just to add to that, Mark, when I had asked about it being the same as what CVS is, I can remember as a child in the 1960s, water always sat in that field where CVS is. And it's remarkable how well that system works, because you never see a flooded parking lot or anything like that. So that's why I'm presuming that this will actually have better water coverage when it's developed.
You need to go up and state your name.
Engineering standards that have been approved for other subdivisions flood our houses. And your inspectors say, there's nothing we can do.
Discharge is still discharge under the rules, DuPage County stormwater rules. The water that hits the site is going to flow off. But what happens is it is held and then released at a lesser rate than it was previously. To where it releases now.
Into the storm.
It's going to go somewhere, the rain's going to fall. But what they're going to do is it's going to fall, right? So if it falls now, you know what it does. But when this is developed, it's going to be held, contained, and restricted in its outflow so that it's longer, other stormwater is able to dissipate, and then this follows at a lesser rate. That's the improvement. That's the only way physics works with stormwater.
I don't see what with Quincy Bridge, it's more of a problem with Goodwill, Culver's, and Everclean trying to turn left on there because people from your subdivision are speeding to get to 59. I've almost been hit several times trying to turn left on the Schick Road. And I don't, excuse me, I have the floor. You're not at the microphone. Okay, but I mean, it would be ridiculous to leave Dunkin' Donuts and go weaving through the neighborhood to try to get out to out to Army Trail or. I mean, I've seen the traffic on 59, and I can't, you'd have to be a fool to try to turn left in a no left turn zone. And that's, I mean, I don't see how Dunkin' Donuts, it's not projected to add to that. Maybe we need more signage.
Dunkin' Donuts, I love Dunkin' Donuts. Not anything against Dunkin' Donuts. I understand their traffic patterns and all that. But you need to come and see our area there. They're coming through Culver's and Everclear, coming south. They use that because it's a safer way to get off the road than to use 59. Those corners are very sharp. People coming through it, so it's easier to take that side street of Quincy Bridge Road and come in. It's a little bit safer, a little faster too if you want, but there's the curves. But it's all those turns. So you are going to get people coming off of 59 by the culverts there, coming through. They do it every school year from beginning of school for an hour. That's constant traffic every morning. You get that 5 o'clock at night, people coming north, they're coming through. It's faster, it's easier to get off, they just pull off. They don't have to go to a stoplight and wait to get off. So it is going to affect us.
So you're saying it's a constant flow from the southbound headed north of people making a left turn into that place that they're not supposed to be turning left into?
Coming from the north, it's just an easier way of getting off of 59. When you try to pull out onto 59, because there's a whole curve to it. It's not the easiest right-hand turn, because you got people doing 70 miles an hour down 59. You're trying to turn out, and all of a sudden they just pop out because there's a bunch of trees and stuff to that side.
Now you're saying to exit, not to enter. You're saying to exit now.
Yeah. 59 there, you know, the Dunkin' Donuts is there. Turning right onto 59 would probably be easier. You wouldn't have the trees and stuff like that.
And what time is the hour that you're talking about where the traffic is really heavy? You said there's an hour every day that.
Good morning. You figure the school, I think school starts at Bartlett High School.
So the Bartlett High School children are going through where?
They come through down, the ones that come from the north, they come down 59, they take the Quincy Bridge exit, come down to Schick, and then they cross over because it's faster than being backed up on 59, making the turn onto Schick. And then you get the traffic
It's such a short light at Schick Road, though.
coming, you know, in the evening, people coming from the north, they use it as their off-ramp to get into the subdivision. So yes, I agree, we should have something with the whole circle looked at, not just that one pitch point.
So the purpose of the traffic impact study is to look at the impact of just this development and the effects that this development will have on the existing traffic patterns. It's not to say if the entire system is working at an ideal situation. That's a larger traffic study that a single developer would not be required to do. So that is something that we could be requested that the village pursue, looking at the overall assessment of the traffic patterns. That was done previously, which is why there is now a left turn lane on Quincy Bridge. There didn't used to be one was added. So that is something that we can bring up and see if that's something the village would pursue studying. But that is not what is done just for a single site development, is not responsible for looking at the overall function of an area of this size. They redid the striping in this area several years ago. All of the, you can't really see it on there. So the Culvers, Everwash, Goodwill, I don't believe Chester, I think it was after Chesterbrook, they contributed money to pay for restriping of that intersection. I believe so. I believe that's what the fund was for. Right. I thought there was. There's not? Okay. I thought that was something, I thought that was one of the improvements that had been made over there.
Until a few years ago, our sidewalks didn't go up to the street. We had a request that they be looked at.
So I will follow up with Public Works about the striping, because I was under the impression that there was a left turn lane there.
Anyone else? Further comments or motions from the board?
I just have a comment. I mean, Mark pointed out that this is zone commercial. It has been for years. A previous development was looking to go in there. It never came to fruition because there was a lot of concern about it. But developers, the one point I really want to make, and the petitioner has said it, but what this hearing is for Lot 1. So any of the issues or what's going to go into Lot 2 isn't part of this hearing. You know, we're listening to and deciding about specifically Lot 1.
I do have a concern about Bartlett High School and the kids going to the Dunkin' Donuts and the bus stop being on the corner. I'm wondering if the owner would, consider anything that could help out during that time of day, or our police department. It's, to me, going to be, I think, a madhouse with high school students having a Dunkin' Donuts, which I'm sure is going to be a great benefit to
Is your
his
mic
business.
on?
Yes, sorry. You want me to go a little closer? I'm just wondering, with the high school, I have a concern about that, and the bus stop, and just the kids going in and out of there, trying to get donuts in the morning, along with all the other people on Route 59 trying to get coffee and that. So I'm just wondering if there's anything that maybe the owner could do at that rush hour point of the morning to help with traffic or something. I don't know. I've seen that like on Gulf Road with the Portillos or police department. Or would there be something that could be revisited if we see it is an issue down the road, that it could be predetermined in this initial stages, that there would be some responsibility that the owner would take to help with the traffic flow? It's a great business to put on that corner, and I can see why you would want to do that, but I want the kids to be safe.
concern is the left turn onto Schick, out of the parking, out of Quincy Bridge Road, the blind spot. It's hard enough, honestly, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to turn out of there, let alone at a time when you're gonna have, you know, a couple thousand kids that go to Bartlett High School. They're gonna be, let's go to Dunkin' Donuts on our way. I mean, it's just, it's gonna happen. And that's where the accidents are gonna take place, in my opinion, is getting out onto Quincy Bridge Road. There just needs to be some kind of traffic direction. The left turn out of off of Quincy Bridge Road onto Schick. Onto, I'm sorry, out of the parking lot onto Schick. Am I not saying that right? What am I trying to say? The Quincy Bridge Road where the blind spot is, where they have to pull out of more or less onto that other road. Let me try to
I
look.
think what you're
You know
talking
what
about, the exit from the Dunkin' Donuts.
Right.
Onto Schick to go left.
Right.
Yes.
And you have to take that little road. That's
Well,
Schick, right? I'm sorry, that is
Schick.
Schick. I don't think of that as Schick for some reason. I'm very sorry. I'm thinking of that as Quincy Bridge Road. Right. Right. Exactly what you said.
Yes.
Can you explain
You
that?
come out, and with the afternoon traffic of the high school or the morning traffic,
Right.
it could be even,
There's no stop sign, so they naturally have to stop because they don't have the right of way to turn. They have to, you know, wait for the cars either direction, coming from the east or the west. But kids aren't gonna think, you know, kids don't think, they don't have a good reaction time. They're gonna just jolt out, and that's a problem. So I'm just wondering if anything could be done during the heavy times of traffic when school is in session, you know, when all those kids are gonna be piling through that drive-through to get their coffee and their donuts. If there's some kind of help that we can get from either the police department, if we see this becomes a problem down the road. It might not be a problem, but I really foresee it being a problem. And you also have kids on a bus stop we're hearing about right there too, which is another concern. So you have kids coming to get their coffee, you got kids waiting at a bus stop to get to school. So there's, how much further is it from there? So that's not there then, the bus stop? Okay, all right.
Bus stop is further away, and if sidewalk can take the sidewalks to Dunkin' and stay off of that. I think, and again, I think, you know, we're adding one on this side here, yeah. So, and I guess that goes back to that traffic study, and I'll trust in the professionals that when they studied that intersection and the backups on Schick Road going to 59. So they anticipate that timing of the light, how long it takes for those cars to move through that light, and the traffic from the Dunkin' to be able to exit onto Schick Road. That's what that traffic study studies, that specific area right there, and the impact that the Dunkin' has as it exits onto Schick. So they look at that whole transition, the timing, the number of cars that are in line, the timing of the light, and all that is in that traffic report.
Do they put into an account that there's a high school with 3,000 students or 4,000 students just about a quarter of a mile from there, though? That's my concern. That's the part that I'm,
The traffic on 59 and the traffic on Schick Road, do they specifically estimate how many people from high school goes there? I don't know. I don't remember that being noted in the study. But from a timing perspective, the schools exit usually between 2 and 3, which from a Dunkin' standpoint is, you know, it becomes a busier time because of that high school, so they plan
that's exactly what's gonna happen. They're gonna go in the morning. They're gonna go in the afternoon too, but the majority of them, they take the coffee. I have a high schooler. They take the coffee in a high school with them, and they drink their coffee, and it's a trend. It's a big trend. Go get your Dunkin', you know, and they walk in there with their iced whatever, and obviously, I mean, it's gonna benefit that owner very much so, that traffic from those kids, so that's all.
Not specifically the number of high school kids, but the increase in traffic flow coming off of 59 that would go into that Dunkin'. Those are Traffic Institute studies that they anticipate, just on the pure volume of cars on there, how much more is it Dunkin' going to add to the traffic on 59 that's on the cycle through there? So they do take in some of that consideration, specifically how much the school, I can't answer that. I know that the uptick is something that they count on.
At some point, if it gets to be a problem, there could be a no right turn from the hours of 6 to 9 or something coming out of there to make sure they don't go through the subdivision.
Yeah, I mean, that would be somewhat from a Dunkin' standpoint, that would be fine, but that doesn't necessarily equate to development number 2.
Right.
And what that might be, and how that might impact the site, that could certainly be something that's looked at when that other development comes.
Anything else?
So I want to clarify something I said earlier. I was the turn lane was, we had several developments. We were aware that at some point there is going to be a need for a left turn lane on Quincy Bridge. And so we had 2 of the developments north of Chesterbrook Academy did pay a portion towards those future turn lane improvements. And when the village engineer determines that that is warranted, the village has some funds and will contribute the remainder to get that done. So we can direct the village engineer to start looking at seeing how the traffic flow in this entire area is functioning. So that was planned for back in 2005, that they were aware as these lots develop, the traffic, it will generate some traffic impacts.
Might need a turnabout to slow the traffic.
2005. I'm saying we can direct them to do that, but we can't force the developer to prepare that study. So that's why I'm letting the village engineer, I'm bringing this to their attention.
Anything else or any motions?
As a motion to, where are we?
Four parts.
Four parts.
I can't bring it up, so.
Right.
So there are multiple requests before you that have different voting requirements. So I would recommend that you make a motion for each request individually.
Here's the table. I'll start up with number 1. Make a motion to approve the preliminary and final subdivision of the subject site in case number 20-18, Duncan.
I'll second it.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Bob for the first item.
Preliminary final subdivision.
Yes. Preliminary final subdivision.
George Koziel,
Yes.
At this point, I need to close the public hearing. Go ahead.
George. Yes. John Miasso. Yes. Bob Caro.
Yes.
Harley DeVoe.
No.
Mark Hopkins. Julie Kapidukakis.
I need a little more clarification
It's approving a two-lot subdivision with a cross-access easement on Schick Road, and then the stormwater management easement for the underwater vault.
Will we have the opportunity to talk about other things that we've discussed here in these other votes that we're taking tonight as far as these traffic studies and that?
Yes.
Yes.
Mike Weirden,
Okay, so,
I'll make a second motion that we approve the site plan for Lot 1 dash Dunkin' Donuts for case number 2018. That's the second request.
motion on the floor by Mark for the site plan for a positive recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by John. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Julie Kapatakakis. George Koziel,
Yes.
John Miasso,
Yes.
Bob Acaro,
Yes.
Charlie DeVoe, Mark Hopkins, Mike Weirden.
Yes.
I'll just keep going. The third request, I make a motion for approval of the special use permit for a drive-through establishment for case number 20-18, Dunkin'.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for a special use for the drive-through. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mark Hopkins,
Yes?
Julie Kapatakakis, George Koziel,
Yes.
John Miasso,
Yes.
Bob Acaro,
Yes.
Charlie DeVoe, Mike Weirden.
Yes. Okay, Mark, clean it up.
All right. Fourth request. I move that we approve the variation for the parking in the corner side yard for case number 20-18, Dunkin'.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the variation for parking in the corner side yard. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by John. Any discussion?
Charlie DeVoe? No. Mark Hopkins?
Yes?
Julie Kapatakakis? George Koziel?
Yes.
John Miasso?
Yes.
Bob Acaro?
Yes.
Mike Weirden.
Yes. Okay, we shall pass on a positive recommendation to the board. Stay in touch with Christie.
Yes.
To find out when it appears on the village board agenda. Last item on our agenda is cannabis and commercial districts.
Somebody left.
Time limit on our meetings?
10 o'clock, is it all?
Oh, we didn't do it.
Yeah, 10 o'clock. Just stay till midnight on some of these. I've been to hearings. Midnight, I'm leaving. It's on Lake Forest. Man, oh, man. I don't know, they didn't have all the stuff from my doctor. And I had to do an EKG, so I did the EKG. It's not hurting, it's just.
For adult use and medical cannabis dispensing centers, and possibly allowing them within commercial districts. Currently, we only allow one in the Blue Heron Business Park and one in Brewster Creek Business Park. The Village Board recently the village received a concept plan for a adult use dispensary in Town Center. They withdrew their application immediately before the village board meeting, but the village board directed staff to address some text amendments. Number one, to remove the distance requirements that were previously in our definition. Our definition originally followed what the state's definitions were, and the state removed the distance requirements. So we wanted to make sure our definitions matched what the state's definitions were. So the amendments before you are to remove the limit of one adult use dispensing center in Blue Heron and one within Brewster Creek Business Park. We're also adding adult use cannabis or medical dispensing centers to the list of prohibited uses in the B1 Village Center District. And it would be making adult use cannabis and medical cannabis centers special uses in B2, B3, and B4 zoning districts. I know it's a lot. So we could
Repeat that last line for Charlie to hear.
So what we're proposing is to allow adult use and medical cannabis dispensing centers in the B2, B3, and B4 commercial districts, provided they are not located within the downtown overlay. So go to the first map. First map is where, if these amendments were approved, is where dispensaries could be located with the special use permit. So it would have to come before this board for review. Because of the downtown overlay district, we weren't sure if everyone knew exactly what the limits of that were. So if you want to go to the next map. So this is showing you the areas that may have B3 or B2 zoning, but they would be excluded because they're within the overlay district.
And why is that?
The village board had concerns with having it in the downtown, and they wanted discussion on that.
And more specifically, what concerns?
Their concerns were parking. They really didn't get into specifics.
Well, could you
So-
please clarify what you're asking the planning commission to do? For planning?
We're asking you if you are okay with the text amendments as proposed.
If, the way I'm kind of reading it is that the village board is setting this policy and these parameters, and that we're simply reviewing the text to see if that works for us in the constraints of the way the zoning code operates.
Correct, but they also would appreciate your input on if you agree with these. So you're a recommending body, they would like your recommendations. So if there's something in this that you disagree with, or if you're fine with it, they want to know what your input is.
Well, I think the one thing is we probably want to come into compliance with what the state is doing when they.
For the definitions, yes. For the definitions, but villages that are home rule have the authority to limit where they can be located with the zoning.
This is a lot like the gaming question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Could you go back to the red map? So with the policy that the village board is suggesting, then these are the areas in red are the ones that would be candidates.
Correct.
For medical only or for?
This is medical and adult use.
So recreational then?
With what kind of separation to residential or daycare or schools?
No limits, it matches what the state's requirements are.
Isn't there a certain limit with schools and that?
There was, it was removed.
They removed it. Schools, churches.
I see the it Stearns and 59, basically all four corners would allow.
Correct.
Go northeast of there, is that going along Devon Avenue up to the railroad tracks or farther right? Farther to the right?
That's that.
Yeah, what is,
So this is where Senior Flexonics is located.
okay?
This would be Devon Prospect Plaza, this would be the vacant lot at the southwest corner, and then these are industrial lots along Devon.
Isn't it pretty much anywhere we have a shopping center besides the Bartlett town area that what is that called, the
The streets of Bartlett, or the overlay district?
The overlay district.
Yes.
So it's pretty much anywhere we have shopping.
Anywhere you
Bartlett.
have shopping or industrial. But we also, like, this includes lots that are vacant that you may not realize have commercial zoning.
Okay. Is Streets of Bartlett included in this
map?
So Streets of Bartlett is excluded because it's within the downtown overlay district.
Can you circle around sort of where the downtown overlay district is? I
It's
thought it
the
was.
area in yellow.
Oh, the
Can you go to
yellow,
the next
okay.
map?
Okay.
Zoom out.
And the big park, the big section of red is all the industrial park then?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
I think some of the presumption is that someday Flexonics is going to be torn down and something else will go in there.
Well, Flexonics isn't part of the overlay district.
Right.
So they could have, if something else did develop there. But because it has I-1 zoning, it would already be allowed.
Well, I question why eliminate the downtown area? I mean, what I heard, and this is just through the grapevine, is that there was a concern about traffic. Now, I don't know the volume of traffic that's going to go in and out of a establishment, but there's not a heck of a lot of traffic in downtown Bartlett. And maybe some traffic in downtown Bartlett could be a good thing. I guess I don't feel strongly either way, whether real strong either way, that the overlay district remains or it's be taken out. But my comment is, if it's about traffic, I don't see a big issue there. Now, that could obviously change. More brewing hopefully is going to bring traffic. I kind of think of it maybe in the opposite of not having traffic instead of having another reason for maybe people to come into downtown where they wouldn't otherwise do that. So I mean, I know it's completely different than what instructions and, what staff develop based on the feedback and what, some of the trustees had indicated. I think I don't have a problem with removing the 1,000-foot limit or having a limit going along with what the state, what the state did.
What is that for, the 1,000-foot limit?
From schools or daycares.
Okay.
Schools, churches.
But you're saying they did away with that, the state? They eliminated it, yes. So it would be our own.
We have home rule when we could still do something.
Do whatever we want.
I like that idea too.
I don't, I'm really not aware, I don't know if other towns who have establishments, if there have been problems or issues, that we should learn from. Certainly certainly loosening the restrictions that we had put in previously, I think is good. So I'm fine with removing any distance requirements. I'm fine with opening it up to commercial districts. And I question whether are we being short-sighted in not allowing it in the overlay district, the downtown overlay district.
Was the concern downtown that there's residents downtown and the residents didn't want it? I know they wanted to put the gambling in there and they didn't want it downtown. It's the residents that don't want it, isn't that true?
I don't know if it's the residents that didn't want it. There may have been concerns with the one proposal that we had was at Town Center where there's residents directly above the location. But the village board did not specifically state what their concerns were, just that they had concerns about it being within the downtown. Some of the concerns may have been parking, because that seems to be a frequent concern.
I think it was residential mainly. The people who live there don't want it. I remember with the gambling, it was, a couple of years ago we had that, and they were very much opposed to the gambling, and there was no gambling put in downtown.
There is now.
There is
Yeah.
now, yeah.
three places.
Downtown?
So with 1,000, how many feet was that again? 1,000 feet?
1,000 feet.
Can there be an establishment downtown within 1,000 feet of a house?
Within 1,000 feet, it would really limit
It's a quarter mile.
where it could
School,
go.
daycare,
Yeah.
residences, it basically would. shuts it out to
Churches,
those three.
If we
residences.
put that in, it would,
Look, my response is this, and you guys can all respond separately, but technically, in terms of parking, a commercial establishment, and, you know, and uses are fine, you know, they are what they are. This is a political decision, and it is, we are appointed officials and recommending body, and I don't think it's ours to set policy. I don't see any technical issues with what they're proposing, but I hesitate to go any further than that, you know, and each case would be reviewed on its own, especially for impact on neighboring uses.
Right. Yeah, we're not changing the special use requirements for dispensary was very detailed, and it does go into a lot of the impacts that it would have on surrounding
I
property.
think we need all kinds of purview to be able to say no to a special use because of impact on adjacent uses.
Right. There is a lot more, like your typical special use has 3 findings of fact. There's a litany of ones for this.
Besides, Rebecca's Cakes is going to increase the flow into downtown. If you haven't been to Rebecca's Cakes, I recommend you go. The best cupcakes in the area.
Oh, Rebecca's, yeah.
Good plug.
There's my ad plug.
so you're saying if we look at it as a special use, then we can set those guidelines if it's close to a school, like we do with the gambling and that, as far as the gaming machines?
You can't set the distance. If the distance is a requirement, that would have to be in the language for the special use definition. But you could look at parking impacts. There's impacts of that use in that location that would be analyzed. So you're looking at each one on a case-by-case basis. Someone couldn't just move into a location and open up. They would have to go before this committee, they would have to go before the village board, and they would have to meet the criteria. It's a very regulated.
We propose to go into a strip shopping center, and next door is a child's counseling center, and over here is a dance studio for kids, and, you know, kids taekwondo or whatever it is, you know, it's, then all of a sudden reality's gonna come squarely in our faces, and we have to have enough ammunition to say no to those cases.
That's why we put this, that's why it's a special use everywhere and not permitted.
I think the state laws, the rules should be followed. I'm not really in favor of imposing distances. I think that creates more problems in the future than what we plan tonight. I have a slight concern about the overlay district, but it was said tonight that downtown Bartlett really does not have traffic. It seems like we have an abundance of parking now, and maybe it could work. And if it has to be approved on a request-by-request basis, a special use, then I'm okay with it. Don't restrict it in the downtown overlay district. That might be a good thing.
I mean, I think there's a lot less traffic. A lot of it is there's a lot less commuters, a lot less, you know, that hasn't come back. So again, from a traffic standpoint, parking, I mean, how many times have we addressed parking for downtown locations? I mean, every time there's something new, we talk about parking. And I've said it and I'll say it again, I would relish a parking problem, because that means downtown is busy. That would mean we'd have to talk about a parking garage or solve the problem. But there isn't a problem, because there's no one down here.
Unless you want to park in front of JC's Mexican.
Yeah.
That little strip right there is a nightmare, especially when people don't realize it's one way. And they come up the other way. It's a very interesting afternoon or evening. So. But no, you're right. There's open parking, especially after 11 o'clock now. We can all park in the metro stations. So what are we looking at? The proposal to send this on as it is, or amend it such that we think the downtown overlay should be removed?
If you prefer, we can add a summary of what this discussion was to include in the executive summary. You can make a recommendation as what's presented, but we can also include some of the discussion points as well.
That sounds good to me.
That's reasonable.
That way it's not a formal
Yeah.
vote, yes or no.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying you could say that you are in agreement with, or that you recommend the text amendments, but these are other points that you had, and we can call those points out to let them know those were items that you felt could use additional discussions based on their policy.
That motion was made, and we go ahead and ask you to make a summary of our comments. What would an abstention vote mean then to the village board from any individual here?
For a text amendment, it's a simple majority, correct? It's a simple majority of who is voting.
Okay.
Well, I would be in favor of that. And one of the items, I mean, we've talked about the overlay, if we vote on that separate or just make, the comment. But if it hasn't already been done, I would suggest that staff and maybe the police look at other surrounding villages that have establishments throughout their village and try to get some idea of, problems that there have been. I mean, people think of cannabis and you're going to have shady people coming. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. We don't have that experience because we haven't got any establishments. But, what happens, what has been the results in other villages where they have these establishments? Have the, increase in police calls, increase in complaints to the village because of, issues that those establishments bring in.
Correct me if I'm wrong, too, that the whole idea of the preemptive zoning amendments that we did in whatever, 05 or what have you, was an anticipation of the state coming up with more liberal,
Yes.
right, regulations so that we would not be seen as reacting negatively to them and then
But yet,
not having the authority to say no to. So all of a sudden, the policy of the village is kind of flipping over.
if I recall back then, we were all trying to control the unknown. I think there was a lot of that.
Well, now we know.
Oh, but do we?
Well, you're right, in terms of what really happens at the establishment.
I know we're concerned about what's happened in other areas, and we don't have anything, if you will, formal, that, let's say, staff from our village talks to staff from another village. We don't have anything like that, but I hope I'm not mistaken, but I don't remember hearing anything in the news that says there's been problems at these sorts of places. It doesn't exist, it seems like. I mean, it's like everybody was upset about gambling anywhere, gambling downtown, gambling anywhere. We don't want it. Well, because there's going to be problems. Well, I don't think there've been any real problems.
There's none.
Are we gonna be doing something that's gonna force business out of this town? Just because we're worried about something that we're not sure of, and it might not ever happen, but we don't wanna just, we're gonna say no just because. I'm not in favor of that. And I'm afraid that if we let this go to the village board on a basis of, well, we sort of approve it, except, I know we have a number of exceptions. I don't want to have it, I'm not pre-approving anything.
There's always the option, if you leave it as is, and say someone wants to locate within a location in the downtown overlay, they could petition for a text amendment.
Case by case?
Part of their petition. So we have had circumstances like that, where there's a use that's not allowed in the current zoning ordinance, and so they have to address it at that time in conjunction with their application.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that. I mean, I see it potentially solves the problem, but are we just making them jump through hoops for, you know?
And lengthens the time for approval.
Well, it wouldn't lengthen the time frame because the public hearing would be held at the same time, because it would still be a special use permit. So they would be doing a public hearing to do a text amendment to allow the use as a special use, and they'd be requesting their special use permit. All at the same time. It would all be done in conjunction. We did the same thing with True North, the truck stop at West Bartlett Road and 25.
So then do you make it seem like when somebody comes forth with this proposal, that there's a possibility of doing that instead of just a hard no, we don't allow that then?
Correct. So the applicant that came forward for Town Center, at that point, it was prohibited. They couldn't go in Town Center at all. So we told them to apply as a concept because we didn't know how the village board was going to be receptive to the proposal. So the village board really didn't get to have input on that exact proposal because they withdrew, but the village board, it started the discussion of allowing dispensaries within the commercial districts. So that's what brought this all on. So had that person gone forward with their application and the village board had reviewed it, it's possible they would have at that point come forward with the text amendment and the special use request. We're trying to be preemptive before we get another application.
Everything is done on a case-by-case basis, isn't it?
Because it's a special use, yes.
Yeah, case by case, okay.
The text amendment,
Reviewing every one of them that wants to have a place.
Yeah.
the text amendment process sounds like it gives us a few more teeth. Then this seems pretty green light here, for all of these places in red and the village center, if we, ultimately as a village were to include that. It still seems to me that it's a village board issue.
They're all a village board
It's
issue.
a political decision.
It is, but what I've heard is that several trustees wanted our input. So,
Yeah, they'd want our input, well, you want everybody's input to see what they think about it.
The last
You
paragraph.
know, the stores, the existing store, they have very tight security, very tight. I've been to the one in Oak Park, and it's very tight security over there. That's in the middle of their downtown on Lake and Harlem. No problems whatsoever. You buy it and you go.
So the staff recommended the Planning and Zoning Commission to review the proposed text amendment conduct a public hearing. When was the public hearing conducted? This is a public hearing?
This is a public hearing.
This is a public hearing, nobody's here.
Make a recommendation, just make a recommendation to the village board. So, a recommendation as to
To approve the text amendments,
text amendment,
to modify the text amendments, or to deny the text amendments.
okay. So modify is what you were alluding to earlier about adding points that we wanted, that we discussed, or?
The way I would word my executive summary in my memo is I would say that the commission had a discussion about allowing it in the downtown overlay district, and did not have as many, some were supportive, it was mixed. We would say that we had different views on it, but we decided to recommend approval as written.
Why would we say we're mixed?
Because it sounds like not everyone is sure that we want to make the change.
Can we do it,
Let's vote on it.
straw vote, see?
Let's vote. Come on, take a straw vote.
I mean, if it comes to us for a specific text amendment for downtown, we're gonna have to talk about it.
Right,
Right.
case by case.
So, I'm good with, let's spend a minute and kind of get an idea. These, not case by case, but just general downtown, are you an up or a down? Is that fair?
Yeah.
I don't think it's as mixed.
So,
That's my
It's a
guess.
straw vote. Straw vote for downtown.
I don't think we're as mixed as she's thinking. I think we're all sort of, I don't know. I'm getting the feeling that we like the village idea of bringing it to downtown Bartlett also.
I agree. Bring it downtown.
So let's
You need the traffic.
all right,
It's not a problem.
I would look at any site on a case-by-case basis,
Right?
including the town center.
okay, you know my opinion?
I go along with that, but I still have reservations when it's close to a school.
Well, yeah, that would
Well,
be
yeah,
the special
yeah, it won't be,
use.
no.
Or any
That
of
way
these
would
other things.
never.
You're not
approve that.
asking about that, right? Or are they ask, or we can,
I mean, you could say that you have concerns about that,
yeah, I want to put.
but it's very limiting. If you do daycares, you have to include home daycares, and those are very hard to track. So that's part of the enforcement issue.
Well, and we have to be able to stand a court challenge on a denial. So we need teeth in the ordinance. And unless we can get that, I'm gonna be a no for the text amendment. You guys go where you want with it, but I'm gonna say no. Let's not go away from the protections that we have unless we know that we have a substitute that's gonna give us real teeth to protect the adjacent uses.
Do we have a lot of protections built into this now? Is it saying?
No,
Well, wouldn't a case by case take care of that?
It would.
Yeah, case by case would take care of that.
we say we just don't like it because it's next to, the
Yeah, we
dance
can do
studio
that.
in a strip center.
On a case by case, we can do that.
Can we do that, Christie, and get away with it? We
Say,
had
like-
somebody come in and it was in the shopping center, if it's in the, and next to the little daycare by the bowling alley there, right?
You can say that you want to keep the distance requirements as part of your recommendation. You could say that you think that that's important and you would like to keep that portion in the ordinance as it stands now.
So if it comes before us as a special use, we can't say it at that time. If we don't put it in there now, we can't say, oh, we don't like the fact that it's next to the daycare center.
I'm trying to see, well, one of the uses, or one of the conditions, findings of fact, is that the proposed facility will not negatively impact existing or future uses located within the vicinity of the subject property.
Yeah.
So you could say with that this is going to have a negative impact on the adjacent use, or neighboring use.
That's a general condition for
It is
any of
very-
our reviews, for any project.
So they also have, let's see, the operations have to comply with state of Illinois. They have to have security plans, security installations, building enhancements. Yeah, that's the only, it's saying to remove, this proposal is to remove that distance requirement. So if you do not want to remove the distance requirement, or you want to reduce it, say, from 1,000 feet to 200 feet or 500 feet, that is a recommendation that you could make.
1,000 feet, in my mind, doesn't work because that's going to eliminate many of the potential commercial spots.
Well, the way that it's worded now, it's excluding residential purposes, daycares, schools, preschools. If you want to get rid of the residential uses and keep the schools and daycares, you could do that.
I think the distance is, as I said, distancing is going to cause additional problems. I mean, I can think of two, there might be more, I don't know. By the Walgreens, that would shut down that area pretty quick. And the streets of Bartlett, that's a gone because there's daycare, schools in there, and 1,000 feet disappears pretty quick. And
Lake and Oak.
And I can't, I mean, maybe there's more, I don't know, but there are two there that I think right away it becomes a problem. If you keep the distance, I'm not in favor of keeping distances at all.
The concern that I have being a Bartlett resident is that, and I don't know if I'm able to say this where I live, you know, is that okay that I give an example of where I'm at? I'm at Apple Valley and 59. I don't know if the liquor store is for sure going in or not. I have the liquor store, I've got Gambits with the gambling, I got the massage parlor. You know, it's bringing down my property values. You know, to put a dispensary in there too, it's like, it's for my home that I'm worried about. So when we say the housing, it's like, it's just, it's like what's too much going into those plazas right there. In certain plazas anywhere in Bartlett, we could say this, you know, that it's affecting home values. That's where I have the concern, like it's just one more thing to bring it down a little bit more. And luckily, things have been okay for the majority with these establishments that we have now. But, you know, you don't know how much is that, how much are incoming buyers looking at, you know, what's on, you know, within the certain footage of the homes that they're looking to buy.
They're only looking at a noise factor when you buy there, noise factor and traffic.
John, speak into the mic so we can get you.
I said for that, you're looking at a noise factor and a traffic factor, that's all.
I think Bob's right. You know, we're kind of not equipped because we don't know the ramifications of these things and how they operate. And we don't know what other home rule municipalities are tending to do.
So, well, most towns are allowing them in their commercial districts, so, give you a sample. So Hanover Park is not. Streamwood does as a special use. Schaumburg does as a special use. St. Charles does as a special use. Villa Park, Westmont, special use. Wheeling, special use. A lot of them do not allow them in their downtown or town centers. Lombard and Wheeling are two that do as a special use. Most of the other ones we surveyed do not.
See, for me as a homeowner, it's like, okay, share the other businesses, you know, it's like, it's not fair that, okay, it's allowed over there on 59 and Stearns, but it's not allowed in downtown Bartlett.
Very well divided.
What's being passed along to the village, the board? I don't hear that we're recommending approval. I hear that there's a lot of discussion about things we like and don't like.
I can summarize the discussion, but there needs to be a motion, and then that motion can fail to pass, or that motion can pass. I mean,
I'll make a motion to allow it in the commercial districts, and downtown overlay, I think we'd have a separate discussion on that. But in the commercial districts, yes.
And does that motion include removing the 1,000-foot?
Removing the 1,000-foot, definitely, because we're going to do everything on a case-by-case basis. And yeah, definitely remove 1,000 feet.
So we're creating a custom motion here.
The 1,000 feet's already included in the text amendment.
State did away with it.
Pardon me?
Right.
State dropped it.
So did the village.
Pardon?
So did the village. This text amendment, the village did away with it too. You read it. The village did away.
yeah, that's,
Special uses.
Oh, that's clear.
that was a lot of words.
All right, can I try a motion? Or do you want to?
Yeah, you can amend it, change it.
Well, that we pass along a positive recommendation for the text amendment as written. And to include an executive summary regarding the downtown overlay. Again, based on what I think I heard,
Yeah.
that for that to be further evaluated, that we as a commission would support the downtown overlay being included.
So if you vote in favor of that motion, you're agreeing with everything that he said.
Yeah, we're including the overlay district, though, or changing to include that.
I thought they didn't want the overlay district included.
Well,
They don't.
They don't. The board doesn't want it, no.
I mean, again,
so the board wants, they put in the overlay, correct?
The board put in that they did not want it in the downtown.
That they did not want it in downtown.
Yeah.
So Bob's motion is saying that we approve the text amendment with a executive discussion concerning
The overlay, right.
Overlay.
Right.
You would be making a positive recommendation, and I would say you're requesting the village board have additional discussion on removing the downtown overlay based on the discussion that was made during the public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Okay.
Right, sounds good.
I don't want to approve anything today where I'm asking them to do something tomorrow. Because once we approve it, it's approved. And our suggestions, our executive presentation could mean nothing. They could just drop it because we approved it.
they could approve it anyway.
It's up to them. They have the final say on everything.
Making a recommendation.
The reason, and what kind of why I'm struggling with it, is I agree with Mark that it's kind of a political issue. I mean, I understand where he's coming from with that. And so they throw us the football and get the public's comment. Well, okay, we see that.
Nobody's,
You know, that's what I'm struggling with, because I agree with what he said. But at the same time, I mean, if they want to, it's really up to them. If it is a political decision. But I strongly feel that they're screwing up the downtown part. So my thought with adding the executive discussion was, because they can do what they want, George. I mean, we know that, and,
This is just a recommendation from us.
all right.
This is not,
It's a recommendation that they
That's all
can
we
be
are.
included in zoning. That's it. That's it.
So if that's what they want, fine, but we think they're missing the point from the downtown aspect. That's,
We all agree on that, right? For the downtown?
Yeah, yeah.
or we just deny it, we just say, no,
Should be revisited then.
downtown should be in there. But then that raises the whole political thing that, here's the football, you guys decide. Right? So,
Too bad we can't have your smile on the notes.
plus after the massage establishment, do it a little bit more graceful, maybe. Strike that.
Could somebody repeat the motion again?
motion was, I got this right,
Okay.
to approve the text amendment as written with a executive discussion about the downtown overlay, recommending that it be removed. Do I hear a second?
Second.
So Charlie made it and John seconded the motion, right?
Right.
Actually, Bob Picaro, but can we vote?
Charlie DeVoe.
Yes.
Mark Hopkins.
Oh.
Julie Kapitukakis.
Yes.
George Cosio.
Yes.
John Miasso.
Yes.
Bob Caro.
Yes.
Mike Weirden.
No.
So how'd that come out?
5-2.
Majority, so that moves forward.
5-2 vote.
Rules and procedure, I heard that there's still some minor changes that are going to be sent to me, so we'll send a new version out.
Did you get a, section 3, page 5? Paragraph A, there's a second paragraph below that. And there's, I think there's supposed to be a Z after P and it's blank. Well, take a look.
We'll make the change, we'll send it around again next month.
Okay. That's the only one I found.
Okay. We will have Bannerman's next month. So Bannerman's is looking at moving into Brewster Creek Business Park.
Off of,
Build a building.
Munger Road or Naperville Road?
You would see it from Munger Road, so it'll be on Hart Circle.
Okay.
Can you pull up the?
And there will still be people who complain.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Stearns, okay. Yeah.
Here's Munger and Stearns. So we're looking at going in this location.
Do you perceive some opposition to that?
The notification's only 250 feet within that property boundary. So they'll notify, there's some condo owners. If you recall, when we had Stearns and Munger come in, some of the condo owners came out to the public hearing for that project, so it's possible.
I think the people that work there would, you would think.
You would think.
adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We got 2 minutes.
That's right. Do it by 10. Been moved and seconded.
Yes.
We're all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.